Now our two pages are connected, but we also had another issue before. And that issue was that we had a lot of code duplication in our templates. After all, we have basically the same skeleton for both our template files, then just with slightly different data for the title, maybe slightly different CSS imports, and of course the different main content. But the header, for example, is the same, and so on. And because we have such duplication, typically in any website we build, Django has a built-in feature related to templates that allows us to define a base template, which is used for all our pages, or actually it's up to us to tell Django which pages should use it. And then we only need to define this base skeleton once, and we can easily use it for multiple pages. And that's what we're going to do here. For that, in my templates meetups folder here, I'll add another subfolder, which I'll name base. And you don't have to create this subfolder, and you also don't have to name it base. It's just my personal decision. And in there, I'll add a base HTML file, which holds this base template. You could also create it project-wide in a project-wide base template folder, which you then have to register in settings.py for your template DIRs. And I do that in the complete course. But here for this example, where we only have meetups, it is enough to create such a local base template. Now in here, I want to have the base skeleton, which I use in my other templates as well. So I will copy the skeleton from there, from the index.html file here, for example, and copy it into base HTML. Now, of course, here I want to clean it up though. In the main section here, in the main element, I want to get rid of this section in here, for example. Because of course the page content is different for my different website pages. Now the header in general is always the same, though these texts here, those also will have to change based on which page is loaded. And here in my head section, I also generally have the same head section for all my pages, but then there are some differences. For example, the title should be set by the specific page which is being rendered, and the styles are also not always the same. And because we have these dynamic, these flexible parts in our base template, Django allows us to create so-called blocks in our base template, which can then be overwritten by the templates that use this base template. And a block is simply created by using curly braces with the percentage sign notation, opening and closing, and then block. So, put in other words, we use the block tag here. And the block tag allows us to define a block which can be overwritten by other templates later. Now, you need to give this block a name, and that's simply an extra value which you add after block, after a white space. And here it could be title, but this name is up to you. And then, very important, you also have to end this block by again using the opening and closing percentage curly braces and then typing end block here. Between the block and end block tag here, you can also define a default value which will be used if the template that could override this block does not override it. So here we could define my meetups as a fallback title. Now here I have the base CSS file, which I want to use on all the pages, but the second CSS link is different for my different pages, and we can also define a block for this. We can have the site CSS block here, for example. Again, name is up to you. And then here I end this block. And in the header, I also have the H1 and the paragraph tag here, and that should also be settable from inside my pages. So here I'll add a new block, which I'll name main heading, and we can then end that block here thereafter, like this. And we could also again set a default value if we want to. And of course here we can also add a subtitle, or maybe just add an entire block, which we name header content. So that's some extra content which can be injected into the header, so to say, if a page wants to do that. And now here in the main element, I also want to define a block, which I'll name body. Again, name is up to you, of course. And then end block to tell Django where this block ends. And now we got this base template with several dynamic injection points, if you want to call that like this, which can be used by the templates using this base template. Now, speaking of that, how do we use this base template now? For that, to use it, we go to one of our other templates, index.html for example, and there at the very top, before we load static, we have to add another special tag, and that's the extends tag. And here we define which base template we want to extend. Now we pass a string here, and then a path to the template we want to use for this template to inherit from. And in my case, that's meetups/base/base HTML. So this file we just worked on. Now this index.html file is extending that base template, and we can now overwrite those dynamic blocks with our page-specific data here from inside index.html. Now, first of all, I'll get rid of some content here, because that, for example, what I selected here, is all part of the base template as well. I do want to set my own title though. And now, therefore, we need to overwrite this title block. And we can do that by again using block here in the extending template. And we use the same block title now as we defined in the base template. So here I gave this block a name of title, hence in the template that inherits, I also have to refer to this block if I want to override it. And we also have to add end block here, but now between the opening and the closing block tags, we put our value that should be injected into that place in that base template we're inheriting from. Like this. We can do the same for the CSS styles. Here we can add a block referring to that site CSS block here, like that. And then here we add end block, and then we move this page specific link here into this block, like that. And that general base CSS link can be removed because that's already part of our base template. We can remove that head and body part here. And now I wanna inject custom values into this header part. So into main heading and header content. And of course we do that as we did it before. And in general, of course, feel free to try such things on your own first. Pause the video briefly and try it on your own first before you continue with me so that you can also practice what you learned. Here, of course, I'm referring to the main heading block now, and also add end block here to set my page specific main heading text like this. And then I'm referring to the block header underscore content, which I marked in the base template, and end this block. And here I want to have this paragraph tag injected into my base template. And now we can remove the header here. And now I just want to inject this section here into the main element of this base template. So I want to inject it into this body block. And therefore, here we open our block body, body, and also, of course, close it with end block, and then just grab that section here, all of that, cut it, and add it here. Like this. And then here we can remove this part in index.html. And that now should still work. If I save this and I reload this starting page, it looks like before, which proves that it works, but now we're using this base template. And the advantage is that we now have less code duplication. And we can utilize this on Meetup Details HTML as well. And again, feel free to pause the video and try this on your own. Try using that base template in this Meetup Details HTML file as well. Here we're now going to do it together. And for this, we can extend our template here from Meetup space base HTML. That's the first thing we have to do if we want to extend another template. And then we can define the concrete values for our different blocks. For example, for the title block here, we can define a value. And block has to go here. And here we had a dynamic title, but that's okay. We can also inject dynamic values into our blocks here, so we can still use that interpolation syntax here. Now I also have a page-specific CSS import here, and therefore, of course, I'll also define my site CSS block and end it here and paste my link in here. With that, I can get rid of that base skeleton. And then here, I don't actually have something that would be injected into the header at this point, though that is of course something we can change. And we could say that we also want to inject something into the main heading and also end this block. And then here again, maybe inject meetup title as we did before. And if you did not do that when you practiced this, it's of course fine, because that is something new which I added here. Now, what I still want to do, of course, is also define my body content that should be injected into this base template. So therefore here, we'll also define this block and then grab this article, cut it, remove this part down there, and add the article here in this body block. And with that, if we save this, if I now go to the details page, that still works. We see the title here as well now, and this is looking good so far. And that's now using this important feature of template inheritance.